Started. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for another one of our super educational and helpful webinars. This one is actually one of my favorites. I really enjoy going through these government programs that are available and answering as many questions as possible because this information is so important. So if you have other friends or family or loved ones who might benefit from this information, please feel free to share this webinar. Well, I mean, that goes for all of our webinars, but I am recording this webinar and we will send a link to the recording. We are also going to send the slides for this webinar to you later on today. Today's webinar, it usually takes about an hour. And since we're in webinar mode, we cannot hear you or see you. So if you have any questions or comments, which I really hope you do, I love the questions and comments, please put them in the chat box. That's the easiest way for me to be able to simultaneously present and keep an eye on the chat and answer your questions. So like I said, please put any questions or comments in the chat box. So I am Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group, and today we have Tanika Combs helping us out from GOT Advocacy. And Tanika, could you speak a little bit about who you are and why you're here and how you can help these families?
Yes, Michelle, thank you for having me. I think these webinars are so very important because you all provide very informative information that we share in the community a lot. So I am Tanika Combs. I founded GOT Advocacy, where I'm a special education advocate, but I'm much more than just an advocate. So all things transition. So helping families from A to Z with workshop training, parent coaching, actually provide them representation in ARD meetings, and a little bit of background about my education and my previous experience is I'm very well versed in transitional support services, where we've transitioned individuals from institutional care out into the community with all of those supports, using all of the waiver services. And it's very important that everything starts with Social Security. So making sure families understand how to maneuver some of those benefits. So this is a great topic for us to kind of join forces on. So I'm just here to help families make very informed decisions when they're making selections about transition in any stage and in any level of disability. So all things transition from A to Z. And then when they get to that adult piece, and we're there to help them with employment skills, getting them equipped for job readiness, and we do job coaching, job skills, and a lot of training in that area. So we're just here to make sure that you have somebody to walk the journey with you that has knowledge in a lot of those areas, and that too is a parent as well. I have a 22-year-old.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Tanika, we have a question in the chat box already that is saying that some members are still trying to log in. Can you resend the email with the link and ID for those who registered? I would love to put that link in the chat box. Do you have the overall public link for this webinar? And can you put that in the chat box, please?
I can, yes.
If I stop my share, we're going to be all discombobulated.
Not a problem. I'll grab it for you.
So, yeah, we could put the link for everyone to join into the chat box, and then Sheena, you can share that with your people who are trying to get in. And I'll try to stick to information about us before we get going too much into all the great stuff. I mean, this is great stuff. But so the first thing I want to talk about is, who is Consolidated Planning Group? Why should you listen to us? Why do we present all these webinars? Well, we are first and foremost a financial advising firm. We're an independent firm located in Sugar Land, which is just outside of Houston, and we serve families all across Texas and all across the United States. So most of what I'm going to be talking about today are federal programs. Some of them are state programs. So if you're in a state other than Texas, I would be happy to go through your state programs for you as well on a quick call later on. And we offer a free Zoom call to anyone who wants one. So don't worry about that. That's awesome. Like I said, we're an independent firm. We are contracted to work with many large partners, but we help you take care of the financial side of things. We've been doing insurance services, financial investments and securities for over 30 years. And the reason that we turned our firm to really focus on helping families with kids who have any kind of intellectual or developmental disability is because the founder of our company, Allison Scobbard, and her husband have two kids who have disabilities. So when she saw all this and she was going through all of this, and she saw how difficult and nuanced this area is, she said, I really want to make it so that our clients know that we understand what they're going through, not just that we live it and breathe it, but that we have studied this area and we know all the nuances of special needs planning. As a matter of fact, even though we've been in this industry for so long, and we have been leading these webinars and studying special needs planning, I am actually going to be receiving my chartered special needs consultant certification. Probably by the end of this month, I'll have that. So we are always looking to advance our education and help as many people as we can. So families come to us for things like protection plans, thinking about what would happen if the main breadwinner in your family could no longer work or maybe was no longer alive. Lifetime care planning for your loved one. If they're not going to be able to work and hold a job, or maybe they're not going to be completely independent because of health issues, they're going to need help and support for the rest of their lives. So what does that look like and how will that be paid for? Transition planning, thinking about what happens after high school, after the 21 plus program, if they are in that kind of a program. When they turn 18 and become an adult in the eyes of the law, there are several transition periods that need to be looked after. And then, of course, like I said, advocacy. We are here to advocate for you and to help educate you throughout this process, to make it easier for you so that you don't make any missteps, or you make at least fewer missteps. Out of over 263,000 financial advisors across the entire United States, there are fewer than 200, not 200,000. Out of 263,000, there are only 200 financial advisors in the United States who focus on special needs planning like we do. And that is fewer than 0.1%. So really, it is important that when you're speaking to somebody about financial planning for an individual who has special needs, or a family that has such an individual in their life, they have to talk to an expert, and that's what we are. So today we are going to be talking about a lot of the different benefits that are available to your family, to your loved ones. If you have questions, again, please put them in the chat box. But we're going to start off with a description of the difference of two of the major programs that we're going to be talking about today, SSDI versus SSI. Now, the acronyms are very similar. The SSDI, SSI, SSA, what do all of these things mean? So I hope to help you understand some of these before we're finished today. So let's start with SSDI. This is Social Security Disability Income. Now, this is when the Social Security pays through the Disability Trust Fund. It's an insurance program, and it's meant to help workers who pay into the Social Security taxes through their wages if they become disabled and then they're unable to work. Now, it doesn't matter how much money you've already made. It doesn't matter what assets you have for SSDI. If you have worked and you become disabled, you should be able to claim SSDI. Now, this program also applies to children and adults who are disabled who cannot work. They can draw these benefits from a parent's record if the parent has reached insured status, which means that they have worked and they have been in the workforce. Okay, so SSDI is for either people who become disabled after they've been working for a while, or people who are disabled and they're not going to be able to work. Typically for our children, they would not receive SSDI until they are older, because this turns on when parents start their Social Security retirement benefits. So there's a question in the chat box that says, well, why would I not apply for DAC, DAC? DAC, Disabled Adult Children, is now called CDB, Childhood Disability Benefits. And it's the exact same thing as SSDI. This SSDI has many different names. The program is called SSDI. Sometimes people call it RSDI, DAC, CDB. That all refers to this SSDI program. And again, it doesn't matter how much money your family has, or you as an individual, or your child, and it does not matter what resources they have or assets. Okay, so now let's look at the other column, SSI, Supplemental Security Income. This is also administered through the Social Security Administration. But the payment comes from general tax revenues. It's not from the same funds that SSDI comes from. SSI is a needs-based program, so you have to meet their criteria about assets and income. Okay, it is a needs-based public assistance program. You don't have to have any work history at all to get SSI. It pays disabled individuals who are unable to work and have very limited resources and very limited income. The asset limit for this is $2,000. So this is where we always say, if your child has more than $2,000 in the bank, they will not qualify for SSI. Okay, you have to have that limited income and limited assets. I'm going to look at a couple of questions here. My son is 22 years old, autistic, nonverbal, U.S. citizen. We have never received any benefits because we lived overseas, but we're moving back. Yay, welcome home to the United States. We'll be in Rosenberg. Well, that's very close to us. So welcome back home. We can help you get signed up and understand hopefully what you need to do with all of those resources and getting everything in place that you need. The next question says, my daughter currently gets SSI. When is the best age for me to retire to maximize the amount my daughter would get in SSDI in the future? So I'm so glad you asked that, because this is one service that we provide. You've given me the opportunity to do a little tiny commercial here. We do a Social Security maximization. We have this software that is proprietary software and helps us look at all the numbers and figures out exactly what you're asking, when the best time for you to turn on your retirement benefits would be, so that your children get the highest benefit that they could possibly get. Because as you're going to see, once you turn on your Social Security, your child will get benefits, and they will get those benefits for the rest of their lives. So we can run a maximization analysis for you. And all you have to do is contact our company. We'll talk about what that costs and how it works and all of that. Okay, is SSDI available to an adult disabled individual who is capable of working just part-time? So she's asking about SSDI. And yes, this is for people who are unable to work due to a disability. Even if they can work part-time, that's fine, but we're going to talk about limits and things like that. So let me get through a few more slides and then we'll come back and see which questions I haven't answered, okay?
And Michelle, I just wanted to just jump in there really quick. I think one of the biggest, when you go back to that comparison chart, I know a lot of people,
Yes.
the most confusing part for individuals when they're talking about SSI versus SSDI, and just making sure that they understand that that SSI is they qualify for that because they have a disability and they haven't had to pay into that to qualify. And I know that's the biggest determining factor, because I get families confused a lot, because when you go online to apply, it's one website. And if you press the wrong button, it's going to delay how you receive services and how long that process is going to take.
Yes, yes. So as I continue, this will help, I hope, people understand how this all plays out. So let's look at the timeline here. At diagnosis, this could be at birth, or, when your child is young, or even older when you're diagnosed with some sort of disability. First of all, we want you to get on the waiting list for the Medicaid waiver programs. Here in Texas, the waiting list for the waivers can be up to 20 years long. In some states, there is no wait. They are able to serve everybody immediately. But here in Texas, you want to get on that waiting list as soon as possible. To do that, you're going to call your local intellectual disability authority, or LIDDA. And there's also a phone number that you'll call that's like an 877 number to get on that waiting list. Later on, or whenever your child turns 18, then they should be able to qualify for SSI benefits if they hadn't previously. Now, if your child is under age 18, they're going to look at the parent's income and assets. And if you are above the limits, you will not be able to qualify. So it is pretty difficult for people to qualify if their child is under 18 years old for SSI benefits. Now, as soon as your child turns 18, you can apply for SSI benefits for that child, and it looks at their income and their assets. So at that point, as long as your child meets the criteria, then they will be able to qualify for those SSI benefits on their own. And it does come with Medicaid. So we're going to go into that, but SSI does come with Medicaid. Now, your child will be on SSI hopefully for several years and receiving their Medicaid. And then later down the road, when the parent is in their late 60s, they are going to turn on their Social Security retirement benefits. When the parent turns on their Social Security retirement benefits, that is when the child can be switched from SSI to SSDI. They're going to stop giving you the SSI benefits usually, because your SSDI should be more. So you're not going to get both unless SSDI is not enough to cover the amount you were getting on SSI. Then after you have been receiving the SSDI benefit for 2 years, 24 months, and after age 18, then your child will be able to qualify for Medicare. And at that point, they're going to be dual eligible. They've already got Medicaid, and now they are also eligible for Medicare, and you can have both at the same time. Okay. So over age 18, these are some of the rules. You have to have a physical or mental impairment that has lasted or is going to last at least 12 years. I'm sorry, 12 months, or result in death. They're going to look at your age, your past work activity, and education to determine how much of a benefit that you get. And you have to be unable to perform substantial work activity. So what is that substantial work activity? It's also called substantial gainful activity. For 2024, the SGA amount is $1,550 a month. Now, if the person is also blind, then they can make up to $2,590 per month. Okay, so what we're saying here, if your child is over the age of 18 and they are working, they can make $1,550 a month and still be able to get SSI benefits. But if they make more than that, they will not qualify for SSI. They use this SGA amount as a measure of work when you are filing your claim. So it's very important that if you want to receive SSI and Medicaid, you keep the monthly amount that the person earns under these levels. Now, what do you get in return for that? Through SSI for 2024, the individual maximum amount is $943 a month. So if your child is on SSI and is not getting $943 a month from the Social Security Administration, maybe they're getting 640 something or 660 something. There are specific reasons why that could be. Maybe they're working a little bit, and so that lowers the amount of their benefit. Maybe the Social Security Administration thinks that they are not paying for their housing, so you can just file a rental agreement and show that they're paying some for housing, and then that amount would go up. Now, if you have a couple where both parties are disabled, the total amount of SSI benefit that they would be able to receive is $1,415 a month. And you can see that there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. It is not double the amount, even though there are two people. This is one area that really upsets me, because it's kind of like they're punishing people for finding love and getting married. But this is the way it is. Contact your senators and congressmen. If you're curious, okay, about will my child qualify as being disabled under the eyes of Social Security? If they aren't seen as being disabled, they're not going to get these benefits. So you can look at this, the Blue Book, and this is what the Social Security Administration uses to look at whether or not a person qualifies as having a disability. So you would look at this link and look up any diagnoses your child or your loved one has and see what they say is required as proof that they have this disability. Okay, let me check out some more of the questions in the chat box. And just FYI, when you receive these slides later on today in your email, these links will be clickable. If any of them don't work, please just let me know so that I can fix them for future webinars. Okay, if a parent is on SSDI on their Social Security, can their disabled son get SSDI on their Social Security? I'm not quite sure, Eileen. The wording of this is a little confusing, but let's say you're getting SSDI, maybe because you hurt your back and you're disabled and you can't work. If you have that SSDI, because you have worked in the past, you have a work record. That means your child who has not been able to work will still be able to draw off of your work record. Now, another thing to consider, somebody says their child is receiving SSI from her dad. You can receive SSDI benefits from mom, dad, biological parents, adoptive parents, and step parents. So whoever has the highest level and can get the child the most money is who they should be under. For the when to retire question, why would that matter for a child who is already on SSI? Well, I hope that has been answered, but I'll go over that. So your child only receives SSI, $943 a month, until you turn on your Social Security, Gwen. And when you turn on your Social Security, the chance of your child's SSDI being more than $943 is pretty good. The SSDI amount is for the child is going to be about half of what the parent receives while the parent is alive. When the parent passes away, that amount goes up to 75%. So your child will get that from the time you pass away until the rest of their lives. So that hopefully it would be more than $943 a month. What if a parent has two kids with two different disabilities? How do they look at all of that? Okay, so if you have two children, Social Security does have family maximums. And, with disabilities, if one parent is taking care of the child at home, there's a child in care benefit, meaning that you get some money for being a stay-at-home parent to a child with a disability. There are also benefits for your child, but there are family maximums. So if you butt up against those family maximums, they will kind of cut you off and spread the money equally between whoever is drawing off of that parent's benefit. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit. No, I'm not. I'm going to get this one more question. Our daughter has been receiving SSDI since her dad retired in 2018. Did I understand that this is a lifetime benefit? Yes. Once you turn on the SSDI benefit, the parent is still alive, your child will receive half of the parent's benefit. Later in life, when that parent passes away, the child will receive 75% of the parent's benefit, and that will continue until your child passes away, as long as they're still considered disabled under the eyes of Social Security. So if this is a disability that can be healed or go away somehow, then they could lose the disability benefits at that point. Okay, good. So moving on. I see there's one question. We'll get to that one. So when your child turns 18, it is very important that you apply for their SSI benefits. You can do this online. The website is there. You're going to go like the day after their 18th birthday and get this application started. It can take a while. It can take a year for the Social Security Administration to get everything filed and get your benefits started, but they will back pay you to the date that you click on that link and start your application. So you want to do this like the day after their 18th birthday.
And not the day before, not the day before, not 2 days before, not 3 days before.
Exactly. The day after. And again, it mentions here, these are also called, it's also called CDB, DAC. All of these things fall under the same program, even though they have different names, okay? So don't be afraid, and we can help you if you have questions with these things. But you need to have medical history. You have to have proof that your child has a disability. It has to have started before age 22. if you want to qualify for SSDI later on. You want to have your physician's name, address, a list of your child's diagnoses, what medications they're on. If you gather up these items before you start the application, it'll just go much smoother for you because you have that all right there. And consider, if you're a little bit extra like we are, go ahead and talk to your child's primary care physician and ask for a copy of the records to see what's in there, to make sure that they qualify under the Blue Book rules of what Social Security considers a disability. Another tip for parents is you probably want to go ahead and request that the primary care physician gives you a copy of those records before that 18th birthday, because if you don't have a power of attorney or guardianship or something like that in line, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you as a parent to get those records after your child turns 18. So as your child is nearing their 18th birthday, I would recommend that you call and ask for these documents, those records. Take a look, make sure everything is correct. Make sure that your child is going to be able to qualify as having a disability. Now,
And Michelle, I would also add that to that too, is making sure you get, before they turn 18, is getting any of those evaluations that were done on the school level too, because any of those documents can help support as well.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. What should you expect when you're applying? Okay, for the first thing, it can take up to a year and sometimes longer. I mentioned that already. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that when you fill out the application for SSI, it used to be that you're also filling out the application for SSDI. And sometimes what we see is our clients will get a letter saying, nope, your benefits are denied. And they're like, what? My child definitely fits the criteria for receiving SSI. This is ridiculous. And then they show us the letter, and in tiny little writing at the top, it says that you were applying for SSDI. And no, you don't qualify for SSDI yet. But if you wait a few weeks later, maybe you'll get the letter that says SSI and that you're approved. So don't panic if you get rejected at first. There are, we're dealing with government services, and sometimes it just takes a closer look. Now, after your local office gets your file all together, they're going to send it out to Austin to the Disability Determination Services Office, DDS. And they're the ones who are going to order your child's records from their doctor. They're going to look through all of that. They're going to consult their Blue Book and see that your child really qualifies. They're going to look through their bank accounts. They're going to look at their pay stubs if your child is working, and really make sure that they fit all the criteria. Now, the good thing about DDS is that they will answer their phone, and you can call and ask, who has been assigned to my file? Do you have everything that you need? Is there anything that I, can help you get, or questions I can help answer for you? They're really good about actually answering questions and answering the phone. Now, there is also something called a presumptive disability. And with these things, the process goes a little bit quicker. So at your local office, they know what the presumptive disabilities are. Some people call this a compassionate allowance. And if your child has one of the things that are on that list, the process is going to go a lot quicker, because they can just say right off the bat, okay, yes, your local office can say, yes, your child gets these benefits. And it speeds things up a bit. So these are the presumptive disabilities, some of them, that if your child has these sorts of disabilities, they will be able to get their benefits a little bit faster. So while you're looking that over, I am going to return to the list of questions and see what's over there. So there's a question, what if the parent dies before retirement? Well, If the parent passes away, the child would skip the 50% SSDI and go straight to 75%, as long as they have a disability and they're over age 18. If an intellectual disability was documented when the child was younger than 18, do you have to have current documentation of the disability over the years? It is always good to keep these records up to date. It's not like you're going to go to the doctor and have, yes, they have an intellectual disability and then never see a doctor again, or never have another IQ test. You want to keep these things updated. And sometimes people will ask for updated testing and proof. So it might become important. We generally say every 3 to 5 years, it's a good idea to check in on whatever disabilities you have, as well as your will and trust information and other things of that nature. My son was diagnosed as a child with a learning disability. He never received or applied for SS disability benefits. He's now 22 and able to work part-time. What are his chances of qualifying? Okay, so you just have to remember what the rules are. Is there a disability? Are they making less than $1,550 per month? And do they have less than $2,000 in a bank account that has their name on? $2,000, you're allowed to have one house and one car, and you cannot be making more than $1,550 a month. And we'll go into that in a little greater detail in a minute and talk about what you can do to make sure that bank account stays under $2,000 a month. It is okay if your child is over 22 or is 22 when you're applying for benefits. What I was saying is that they have to have a disability that started before they were 22 years old. Okay. It doesn't matter how old they are when you actually apply, as long as they're over 18, if you're looking at their income and assets alone. Okay, so I hope that answers Eileen's question as well. A couple questions on that one. I'm sorry that I wasn't clear enough in the first place. So, what if your child is working? And how does that affect their SSI benefits? Okay, so this is the one where they're getting $943 a month, and they can't make more than $1,550 per month. So let's say your child is working. And in this case, in this math equation we have written out for you here, this child is earning $1,200 gross monthly earned income. First of all, there's a deduction of $85. It's $20 for a general exclusion and $65 for an earned income exclusion. So you take off that first $85, and that leaves you with $1,115. You divide that number by 2. In our example, that leaves $557.50, and that is your child's countable income. Now, $557.50 is their countable income. You subtract that by the full $943 benefit that they could receive, and you are left with $385.50, and that is what they would get per month from SSI benefits. Okay, so that is how you can figure out what your child should get if they're maybe working part-time, maybe they have a little job, as long as they're not making more than $1,550 a month. There is also a student earned income exclusion. What this means is that if your child is in school and working, they can make a little bit more money because of the fact that they're in school, if they are regularly attending school. Now, that means that they have to be in a college or university for at least 8 hours a week, in grades 7 to 12 for at least 12 hours a week, or in a training course or something like that to prepare them for employment that is at least 12 hours a week. It can also be homeschooling or tech school or whatever. As long as they're attending some kind of school regularly, they can make more money and still receive their SSI benefits. Now, you have to ask for this. They're not going to give it to you automatically. They're not going to give it to you even though they know your child is disabled and in school and working. You have to say, I want my student earned income exclusion for my child. Okay. The Red Book. If your child is working and you have questions about how their work is going to affect their SSI benefits or about any of the income programs, all of that stuff is in the Red Book. So you can look that up by checking this link. Okay, does ABA therapy count as being in school? That, Sabrina, I don't think so. I think we're talking about high school, college, tech programs, homeschooling, things like that. I don't think ABA counts. Sorry. Okay, now child support. Unfortunately, this is a hot topic because sadly, a lot of families with disabled children do experience divorce. And child support can go beyond the 18th birthday in cases where the child is disabled. Now, if this is a situation in your life, when your child turns 18, that child support will be counted against them as income by the Social Security Administration, unless that money goes into a first-party special needs trust. It has to be first party because if you remember from literature classes back in high school and middle school, first party means it's their own money. Just like in literature, first party narrative is your own experience. If this money goes to the child, it will cause them to lose out on Social Security benefits like SSI. So you need to have an attorney help you make sure that that money is redirected into a first party special needs trust. It's pretty easy as long as both parties agree. The judge will just sign off on it. The trust needs to be set up and the child support payments will go to the first party special needs trust of the child. If you are currently going through a divorce, it's much easier to set this up on the front end rather than going back to change your divorce decree. But either way, that's what needs to happen, or else your child could lose out on SSI benefits. If your child, okay, this is a good one. If your child is already getting benefits because one parent is drawing benefits in retirement and your child's a minor, should they still apply for SSI when they turn 18? So your child is currently a minor and the parent retires and turns on their retirement benefits. Your child will get a benefit because they're a minor. Now, when they turn 18, that benefit is going to stop because the Social Security Administration sees they're receiving this benefit because they're a minor and they're no longer a minor, so they no longer get this benefit. You're going to have to make a choice at that point. Do we want to go back and file for SSI and get our child the $943 for several months and get them Medicaid? Or do we want to go back and tell Social Security, oh, our child still needs to get SSDI because they are disabled. And after 2 years, after they are 18 and on SSDI, they will qualify for Medicare. In our opinion, if you have the choice, get your child on SSI, get their $943 for a couple months and get them Medicaid. After they're on Medicaid, then you can switch them over to SSDI. They will get more money each month. They will still have Medicaid, and after 2 years, they'll be dual eligible for both Medicaid and Medicare. If you have questions, contact our office. We will walk you through all of that. Now, the amount, and this is a question from the chat, yes, the amount of SSI money, that $943 a month, that goes up every year. It's adjusted for inflation and cost of living. So is the $1,550. Most of the amounts go up each year. The one amount that does not go up each year due to rising costs and inflation and cost of living is the $2,000. That amount hasn't been changed in like 20 or 30 years. Your child cannot have more than $2,000 in his or her bank account. So SSDI, to be entitled to SSDI, again, 18 or older, disability that began before age 22, you're the dependent of an insured worker parent, not married. Again, if you get married, you're going to lose SSDI benefits as well. And again, some of these rules I just don't understand, but they did not ask me for my opinion when they were writing these rules. So that's what it is. And the substantial gainful activity of $1,550 gross earnings per month still applies, because if your child is earning more than $1,550 per month, they're not going to be able to draw from your SSDI. They will have to wait until they can get their own. Okay. Can you have private insurance and Medicaid? Yes, you can. And Medicaid can swoop in and pay things that your private insurance won't pay, like deductibles, or maybe you want to use SSDI or SSI payments. Let me start that sentence over. Maybe you want to use Medicaid for things like scans or x-rays, because the doctors that they have under Medicaid might not be your typical family doctor that you want. So you use your private insurance to be able to go see the doctor that you want, and you use your Medicaid insurance to pay for things that basically any technician that you trust can take care of, like scans and testing and blood draws and things of that nature. When your child gets child support and is over the age of 18, you set up that first party special needs trust for the child support to go into. What can you spend the funds from that first party special needs trust on? Can you pay for housing and utilities and food without losing those SSI benefits? Thank you so much, Sue, for bringing up this question. We are about to get to that. I think it's in the next couple of slides, but you should never use a special needs trust for housing, food, cash, utilities, or it will cause a reduction in your SSI benefits. And that includes the first party trust. So we're going to get to that, and I'll reiterate when we get there in case anyone is confused. So when we're talking about SSDI and drawing from a parent's record, again, this is now called childhood disability benefits. It used to be called disabled adult child, DAC benefits. People call it SSDI. All of these names refer to the same thing, and that is when a disabled child is drawing from their parent's Social Security record. Here are some more tips about how that works. First of all, the parent gets their full amount. So let's imagine the parent's amount is $4,000 a month. The parent is still going to get their $4,000 a month. The child is going to get $2,000 a month when the parent starts that program. Now, After 24 months of being on that program, the child will qualify for Medicare as long as they're over age 18. So 24 months after age 18, they can get Medicare. When the when the adult passes away, the child's amount goes from 50% or $2,000 a month up to 75%, $3,000 a month. And they receive that benefit for the rest of their lives. There are family maximums, which we said, if you have 2 or 3 children with different disabilities, if you have a spouse who is staying at home and taking care of these children and drawing benefits, there are limits. But in general, these are great benefits that are really going to be helpful. You want the maximum amount that you can possibly get. And it really depends on when you turn on your retirement benefits to get the most. Another thing that we get a question about a lot is you have to remember that turning on your Social Security retirement benefits is not the same as retiring from the workforce and not working anymore. You can still continue to work and earn money even though you have turned on your Social Security retirement benefits. These are not the same thing, okay? It's not the same. So how do you protect the benefits that your child can get? You have to make sure that you have the money in the right buckets. You have to make sure that your child's name is never listed straight out as the beneficiary of any accounts. So if you have life insurance and you want to leave some for your disabled child, which you absolutely should, you should never disinherit your child. You want that child's money to go to a trust, a special needs trust for the benefit of that child. That's a third-party special needs trust. And if grandma and grandpa want to leave money or friends and family for that child, it has to go to their trust, not directly to them. You can also have an ABLE account for that child that will help provide a place to put money that it can be saved for them and it doesn't count against their benefits. So let's talk about the ABLE account real quick. We're kind of running out of time, but I want to get as many of these slides done and as many of your questions answered. So your child can have money in an ABLE account. They can have money in a special needs trust. Neither of these places will count against them for Medicaid or other benefits like SSI. Even if your child is on SSDI, you still want them to qualify for Medicaid, and that's why these things are still important. Medicaid still has that $2,000 limit on how much money your child can have in an account. So let's talk specifically about that ABLE account. Your ABLE account can be set up by anybody, and anybody can put money into it. Each child has one ABLE account. Your child, so you have this account set up. There are over 50 different ABLE accounts all across the United States. You can pick any one that you want. You do not have to pick the one for your state. And most states don't have to have you don't have to be a resident to be able to use that state's ABLE account. So you're going to look at different ABLE accounts, pick one that has things that you can understand, good customer service, low fees, or at least fees that you understand what you're paying for. The clients that we serve, we can set up an ABLE account for you. We use the one through Virginia, and we would explain all of that to you. So what you need to know is that you can only put in a limited amount of money each year into your ABLE account. This year, that amount is $18,000. It is whatever the year's gift tax exclusion is. So this year, $18,000 into the ABLE account. Total, not per donor. It's per ABLE account, $18,000. Now, you never want that ABLE account to go above $100,000 or else you will lose those SSI benefits. But it's $18,000 generally. If your child is working, they can put in more. But again, do not let your ABLE account go above $100,000. Now, the distributions are not taxed. The earnings on this account are not taxed. It's tax-free growth because this money is invested into mutual funds generally. You can roll over this amount to another family member who fits the criteria, but it has to be another disabled individual. When your child passes away, there is a Medicaid reimbursement from the ABLE account. There is also a Medicaid reimbursement from the First Party Special Needs Trust. So the ideal place to have money for your child is the Third Party Special Needs Trust, but all of these accounts are meant for different things. With the ABLE account, if it can be construed as helping your child achieve a better living experience, that's what ABLE stands for, achieving a better life experience. You can use this money for that as long as it helps your child. You can use this money for housing and school and a car and a computer and vacations. You can use this money for almost anything without it causing any issues. But there are those limits on how much you can put in. You can pay for housing, financial management. It will not cause a 1/3 reduction to your SSI payments. Okay. Your special needs trust, on the other hand, you should not use your special needs trust if your child is receiving SSI for these items: rent, mortgage, real estate taxes, utilities, cash, food. I hear they're going to remove food, but for right now, still don't pay for food with the special needs trust. If you pay for these items and your child is receiving SSI, the $943 a month, their payment will be reduced by 1/3 if you use your special needs trust to pay for these. Your special needs trust can pay for a lot of things, just not those daily living things, okay? So the ABLE account has limits on how much you can put in, but no limits on what you can use it for as long as it is for that beneficiary. The special needs trust, no limit on how much you can put in, but there are limits to what you can use it for as long as your child is receiving SSI. I hope that makes it clear. That's as clear as I can explain it. I'm going to check out some of these questions in a moment, and I'll make sure that that's been answered. So families come to us to help them sleep a little better at night. We know that you're worried about who's going to take care of your children when you're gone, and we can help you settle some of those fears. Start planning now. It does not matter how old your child is. We're not going to criticize you for planning that you don't have in place. We are here to help you going forward. We want you to think about what's going to happen after high school. You don't want your child to graduate to the couch, probably. So what does that look like? There are vocational options, there are educational options, there are residential options. And don't just assume that a sibling wants to or will be able to step in as caregiver. They might not be able to at that point. They might not want to. They might feel resentment if you just assume that they're going to. And not only could a sibling feel resentful that you assume they're going to take care of their loved one, but the child with the disability could also feel that resentment towards their sibling who is now stepping into a parental role. You're my sister, not my mom. Don't try to boss me around. You know, you can imagine that conversation coming about. I'm going to put up, I want you to see, you know, we're sending you all of these slides. This link will take you to our upcoming webinars so you can register for those. Once you register, our team will send you the slides after the webinar is over, you'll get the reminders for those webinars. This is our team, by the way, 2 lovely husband and wife couples and a fantastic staff of operations people. We love them. We work as a team and we love that. And then I'm going to put this up while I answer all of our last questions, because I want to make sure that you understand that we want you to schedule this free consultation. We're going to talk to you about what questions you have. If I miss your question today, or you have a question that you don't want to put up in front of everybody, just schedule an appointment with us. We're going to reach out to you. We are here to help. Okay, so Michelle, what was the name of the certification you're completing? I am getting a Chartered Special Needs Consultant certification. It is through the American College of Financial Planning. It's the same place where you would get your certified financial planning, but it's not quite that extensive. Thank you for that. We do not have other offices around Texas. We are a very small independent firm, but we do work all throughout the state of Texas and all throughout the United States. I missed the first third-party special needs trust. Is the special needs trust that comes into fruition at the death of the last parent, is that a first-party trust? Okay, so the first party trust is money that belongs to the child. That would be if there's a legal settlement because your child was injured, their settlement money would go to the first party trust. If grandma and grandpa or anybody leaves money directly to the child and they pass away, that money would go to the first party special needs trust. Child support goes to the first party. This is money that your child owns. The third party trust is for money that you leave to the trust directly, not to the child. So that would be bank accounts, assets, life insurance that you leave in your will to the third party special needs trust of my child. I'm not leaving it to my child. I'm leaving it to their trust. That's the best way to do things. And that's why it's so important that you let everybody know if someone wants to leave your child money, to do it correctly. And you can talk to us about how exactly that works. We will help you make sure it's all clear. The third party special needs trust, don't use that for food and shelter. The ABLE account can be used for that purpose. Yes, the ABLE account is limited to $18,000 a year. Yes. Does that limit the food and shelter to $18,000 a year? Not necessarily, because money flows into and out of the special needs trust. You can only put $18,000 in there a year, but that doesn't mean you can't make certain payments straight out of the bank account, just as long as that bank account doesn't go above $2,000. And recommendations for attorneys. And does your firm help parents set up that third party trust? Those two questions go together, right? Because we are not attorneys. We can help tell you about special needs trusts and guardianship and that you need a will. We cannot set those things up for you. So we do have a list of special needs attorneys that we refer our clients to. We don't make anything from them. They don't make anything from us. We don't have an attorney on staff, but we do keep a good list of different attorneys throughout the state and throughout the country who do this, who you can speak with. And the last question the last question for now, we're already at 1:04, you guys. I love you for sticking with me, but we got to go. Unfortunately, we do not currently have any Spanish speaking consultants. If you want to set up an appointment with us and bring a translator, you are welcome to do that. Last question from Maria, how can a minor qualify for SSDI? The minor can qualify because they're a minor. And then once they turn 18, they'll have to requalify as someone with a disability. That's all I've got in me for today. Thank you, thank you,
Um,
thank you
Michelle,
so
I
much.
just wanted to add one really quick thing.
Yes,
The most difficult place to graduate your child from as they become an adult is from the couch. And so
yes.
it's very important to get those vocational skills, those vocational connections, to get the training that they need to get them off the couch. And as an employment specialist, that is an area that we focus on. So if you're in need of any resources on help on how to explore and navigate that matrix, feel free to reach out to God Advocacy as well.
Thank you so much, Tanika, and for being here with us today. And thank
Absolutely.
you.
This is
There
good
are
stuff.
50 participants out there who have stood with us, stuck with us past the 1 o'clock time mark, and I really do appreciate that. Please reach out for your free consultation or wait for us to reach out to you and go ahead and get that scheduled so you can talk with us and ask us any questions you have. Thank you all. I hope you enjoy your holiday weekend and that you don't have to work on the Thursday or Friday, and that I get to hear from you soon. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
You too.
Goodbye. Thank
All righty.
you.
You're welcome.